The member for Melton.
Speaker, and it's great to see you in the chair, and I believe you're going to vacate the chair. So I rise to contribute to the debate on this very special and interesting legislation, the Commercial Industrial Property Tax Reform Bill 2024. But before I do, I just want to shout out for a couple of events and a couple of days that have happened this year, and I was hoping to get on my feet yesterday, but I just want to remind people yesterday, it was May Day yesterday, International Workers' Day, a day that we remember the struggles of workers to gain basic rights and rally together to sustain those rights at work and in our communities. And of course, it's not just about 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours play. It's also about making sure that people get their rightful entitlements and paid their rightful money. But there's also another special day earlier in the week, which I'd like to mention, and that was the International Workers' Memorial Day on Monday. And we had many of our members from our side of the chamber attend that fantastic memorial service that the Victorian Trades Hall Council put on in the Carlton Gardens on Monday. And just to remind people, 55 workers have died through work accidents in the last 12 months, and many thousands have been injured. So it was a very important day. So it was pleasing to be there. But I will come back to the bill and following through our 23-24 budget promises to abolish stamp duty and replace it with a broad land-based tax, directly benefiting our hard-working Victorian business owners and indirectly on our communities in general. And this reform is a progressive abolishment of land transfer duty for commercial and industrial properties. And I know that many previous speakers have covered this off, but this bill introduces a new principal act to bring in the implementation and administration of this reform. It also amends several existing acts to align with the new tax framework, and those other acts that are affected is the Duties Act 2000, the Treasury Corporation of Victoria Act 1992, Taxation Administration Act 1997, the Valuation of Land Act 1960, the Heritage Act 2017, the Property Law Act 1958 and the Retail Leases Act 2003, and finally the Sale of Land Act 1962. Of course, the impact that these transformative reforms can have will be to the benefit of many thousands of commercial and industrial businesses right across the state, but also in my electorate, which is fantastic. And importantly, it'll open the door for so many more wishing to set up businesses and shops and things like that within the Melton electorate. And I won't spend too much time on the minutiae of the written legislation itself, but I do want to put what this legislation looks like on the ground and in the streets of Melton. It's important to not only debate the merits of the bill, but show what that actually looks like to Victorians. And our businesses expanding or setting up in their best location, somewhere, for example, that's closer to where their customers are. It's like going fishing where the fish are. And of course, establishing a base where there is a growing workforce, like in central Melton, certainly down in the Cobblebank area, where all the activity is going to go down there with a new hospital, a new TAFE college, another secondary school, much housing going on, and of course down in the Exford area of Melton, which is the Melton South area. And these are very fast-growing areas, not only with housing and things like that, but also with infrastructure. And of course, we're going to have 50,000 people move into Melton, another 50,000 people within the next 5.5 years, which will bring it up to 250,000. And then, of course, it's projected there'll be another 200,000 on top of that by 2050. So you can see the growth in that particular area. And I know my colleagues in Koroit and Tarneet and Point Cook are facing the same issues in regard to massive growth and population moving in, which is fantastic. And it's so diverse, our communities, and we're so proud of those communities. Of course, the transition away from stamp duty makes it easier to establish a base in our fastest growing populations in the country, such as mine and as some of the other electorates that I've mentioned. And of course, it's great for the vibrancy of our communities and strengthening the economic vitality of the entire region, in particular right through the western suburbs. It's estimated that the reforms could create up around 12,600 jobs, and it will increase Victoria's economy by around about $50 billion over the next 40 years. And just recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, we had the small business bus come into Melton, which is fantastic. And they've been out there on a number of occasions. And of course, this is just another way that the government helps to stimulate small businesses and foster innovation, and it encourages and incentivises and, as I say, encourages those Victorians who are willing to have a bit of a go and dip into their own pockets to try and start their own business and get some assistance and learn through the expertise of the people that are on the business bus to develop their business ideas and build their capabilities. And I've had some direct involvement with that and with some of those businesses that have come from that. We have what we call a hothouse pop-up in Melton, which is able to share with projects. The project's held once per year. It's fully funded by the Melton City Council for participants who qualify. It's coordinated by an organisation called Venture Melton, which is organised by the council. It's a business network supporting businesses in the mighty city of Melton, and a big part of the retail activity, and it centres around strategies to help people within their local businesses. It runs for 5 weeks of intensive training by highly experienced and qualified mentors, followed by ongoing development and support from council to help accelerate the process of developing a business. And of course, this project, which was recently completed its 4th season, has seen something like 105 participants. So that's potentially 105 businesses that have been set up through this process, through the expert mentoring and support and ideas, and being able to run and formulate a business and hopefully keep a business viable and keep it going, and that's what's happened. So again, I say that these sorts of programs locally are very helpful, and we've contributed to that. I'm the chair of the Melton Revitalisation Board, which has provided some money for these pop-up incubators for businesses to be exposed, home businesses to be exposed to the general community of Melton, and it's been very successful. And I'll give a bit of a shout out to a couple of those businesses that I went and saw when they were in the incubators, and one was called Living Cocoa, and they produce coffee and chocolate, and it's one business. Sorry? No invite. No. No, it was all for me. It was all for me. So, and they're a great business that they, as I say, they produce coffee and chocolate, and fantastic business. I couldn't get away from that pop-up, but and you know they provide what they call slave-free certified cacao, and it's a vegan product too, which is interesting, especially for someone like me. It's very interesting. But the taste of it, and they they get their beans from slave-free Pacific Islanders, and that's great because we're engaging with other countries, our Pacific Island friends, and we have a very big Pacifica community in Melton, and these products are just amazing. So I encourage people to get onto their website. It's called Living Cocoa. Have a look at it and order online. It's just magnificent, both their coffee and their chocolate and what they do for the local community. But there's another one. There's a young guy that I want to give a shout out to. His name's Jazzler Pearl. He's a young clothing designer. He's a 20-year-old young man, and his mother taught him how to sew at 8 years of age. And this guy produces all of these fantastic clothes. But for someone like me, when I went to the pop-up, the only thing I could pick out of his clothing that would suit me was a black T-shirt. So I got some T-shirts, but his clothing's beautiful, and I do encourage people to have a look at his website called jazzlerpearlstore.com. And again, this arises out of, again, support for local businesses, improved tax reform, and also the mentoring programs that our government has contributed to local businesses and to try and encourage more productivity within the area. And I know I've only got very little time left, but as I say, this is an important reform. I thank the Treasurer for this legislation and for this tax change. It's really important to, again, businesses across the state and for the productivity of the state, But more importantly for me, I'm going to be a bit selfish, and that is it's really important for my electorate of Melton, for the local businesses of Melton, and we keep encouraging those businesses, so I commend it to the House.